Oh, hi! This week, since everything's sad and depressing all the time, let's make a Totoro hoodie because I need a hug. Honestly, this project will probably be a little bit frustrating because we are using faux fur. You can make this easier on yourself and just use a beige fleece or something. I have already cut all my pieces out just to make this easier on myself. And I'm using a pattern. I've already used this before and I know what I need to do with it and it's making it easier on myself. But you can 100% just trace out a shirt and then cut out a shape for the tummy and stitch on a different fabric. It's going to be super easy to just make this your own out of whatever you have. This is the pattern I'm using for it. It's Simplicity 8276, but I did trace out my own pattern and shorten it from being a onesie into a hoodie. And it was just a matter of tracing it onto some cardboard with a tracing wheel, going along whatever lines I needed, and then making sure everything was the same length. Nothing too complicated. My main fabric is this not thick like a Polartec fleece, but definitely thicker than that like Walmart fleece you're gonna find, although that's gonna do the trick too. It's nice and cheap, so you get whatever you need to get to make this happen for yourself. I do also have some flannel and felt pieces that were just little scraps laying around that I put together for the eyes and the little nose. The pattern pieces I have made that make this go from a regular hoodie to a forest sprite are the little snoot piece, the white of the eye, and the pupil. I just cut it out of the center here. His little ears and his little tummy checks. I will scan all of these pattern pieces into my computer because I have such an amazing crew of bog trolls over on my Patreon, like all of these wonderful folks here. They make it possible for this to just go up there for free. So even if you're not, it's because of them that this will just be available to whoever wants to make their own Totoro hoodie. All right, so yes, gray fleece, black and white flannel pieces, and then I am using faux fur for his tummy. It is a long pile, like shaggy faux fur. It's a little floppy. It was actually super easy to cut out because of that. Now, when you cut faux fur, you gotta make sure that the nap is going the right direction so the fur is hanging in the correct way. And then as you're cutting along it, you do need to kind of push your scissors up against the backing. Like you need to have the back of the faux fur facing up. You kind of push your scissors up against it so you're not cutting through the actual fur fibers, you're just cutting this part here. Oh, and I'm using this sewable foam. It's 1/4 inch thick. I was just given a bunch of scraps from my old job, so stuffing ears are like the perfect thing to use it up for. But you can just add an extra layer or two of the fleece you're using, or stuff it with polyfill if you wanted to like really puff out. I want these to still lay pretty flat. I mean, no matter what, they're going to be flopping because I'm not putting any like wiring or anything into it to make them stand up. And the hoodie's going to be open in the front. You can make this into a pullover. That would actually probably make this much easier. And if you're tracing off of a shirt or an already existing hoodie, that's likely the case that it's like a pullover. Maybe I'm making a lot of assumptions about you not liking zip up hoodies. I feel like they were a bigger thing and now I don't see them as much anymore. But that could also just be because I never leave the house. So, you know, how about we stay out of the despair pit this morning? Okay, because I have really shaggy faux fur, doing a zipper would be a fucking nightmare, as well as doing buttonholes because this is very floppy, stretchy faux fur, so I don't want to fuck with that either. What I'm gonna do is add some cam snaps. These were very kindly gifted to me by one of my patrons, Jeanette. Thank you so much. Like, I know I talk about it every time I talk about these. Such a game changer. I had never considered using plastic snaps for closures for things. It's so genius in so many places. When I made my onesie version of this for my Etsy shop, that is the first project I ever used cam snaps on, and it just blew my mind in the best way. So thank you so much for those. I can't think of something that would work better in this particular scenario. So I will be using those, but especially if you're just using regular fleece or something, other closures will be fine. I am certainly not expecting anyone else to have this faux fur because I couldn't even tell you where it came from. And listen, if you can go your sewing career avoiding faux fur, I recommend making that choice. Without further ado, let us start the construction process, shall we? All right, I'm gonna start with the detail pieces because they're the most like pain in the ass other than the faux fur part. Now my hood is gonna be out of 4 pieces because I'm attaching the ears together. So there's the like back of the hood and then another section that's gonna go across the front of the face. So I'm gonna sew each of the halves right sides together. Okay, so here's my back and my front of the hood. Cool. And next is the reason why you do need a 2-section hood thing, because it seems more complicated. Hoods are so easy to make when it's just one piece, where this is adding steps that are normally not necessary. But Totoro's got ears, baby! So I have 2 pieces of fleece that are ear-shaped. I mean, total I have 4. But to make one ear, oh boy, this always messes me up. Hold on, let me think. I need the two ear pieces to be right sides together and then have one of those wrong sides facing the foam. So like this, or whatever your extra layer is. My instinct is always to have it between, like sandwiched between the two pieces, but if they're right sides together and you have the inner layer between that, then that'll get flipped out to be on the right side, which is not where you want the inner bits. Maybe it's just me that has a hard time computing this every time. So I'm gonna stitch along this edge, leave the short end open down here. Okay, my little ears are made. I turned everything out. Obviously I trimmed a lot of the excess foam and even the excess edges of the seam allowance down. So we've got our little Totoro ears. Oh, and I serged the face edge of the front hood pieces and turned it under just because I want a nice clean edge there. You can roll it over twice if you don't have a serger, but this is gonna do the trick for me. So we're gonna line up our center hood seams right sides together, and to keep the bulk down, going over seams like this where you're crossing other seams, like this right here is gonna have a lot of bulk. I just make sure the seam allowances are going opposite directions. If you're not serging them, you can open the seams and lay them flat, and that'll help reduce some of the bulk, but this is what I like to do, is just have them go opposite directions. So we don't have, what, 6 layers of fleece in the same spot. All right, before we stitch these together, we're gonna put our little ears, let's see, we'll go maybe 4 inches from the center. So my ears are clipped in there. These are sandwiched between the right sides because when it's flipped out, I want them sticking out. All right, then it's just stitching these 2 edges together. I'll serge it as well. And then I need to eat breakfast because it's pushing 10 o'clock and I forgot that I needed to do that before I got into the project, but I was just so excited to make this Totoro. Ears are done. It's bean time, baby. All right, I'm properly bean fueled. So next step is we're gonna do the face bits. I'm gonna switch to black thread, stitch this little nosy right on here. It's kind of on the edge, but I did center it over this seam. Why? I've been filming the same way for 7, 8 years maybe, and I still can never figure out what direction is what. Like, I'm just incapable of it. I need to sew the pupils onto the white pieces before I then attach the white pieces to the face. Then once those are attached, it's just going to be a matter of positioning his little eyes so that he doesn't look too wonky. Although I myself am wonky, so I like the idea of some cross-eyed representation in the world because all I've got is Marty Feldman and Andrew WK. Eep, okay. Holy shit, he's so cute. I love him. Some things to note here. I wish I hadn't used flannel for the whites. I wish I had stuck with felt or fleece like I've done for every other hoodie I've made like this, because the flannel is woven, so it's fraying a bit. Also, it was so much thinner than the other fabrics I've used. So if I was still going to use it, I should have put like a double-sided interfacing Wonder Under type deal. Not that I needed to iron it onto the hood, although that could have also helped with placement perhaps. But I think I did a pretty good job making his eyes look even. His little snoot. God, his nose is so cute. So overall, I'm really proud, and I'm keeping this for myself, so you know, lower standards for quality. But I do think it's worth mentioning, both as a reminder to myself for when I get back into doing these for my Etsy shop, that obviously my consideration of fabric needs to be better. And just so you know, even though I have made a bunch of these, I still learn shit. So here we are. It's something I probably should have known ahead of time, really. But overall, I don't think it's too bad. This like wrinkling, puckering up here wouldn't be happening if I had that stabilizer underneath. There's that, or also having a thicker fabric would have fixed that problem. We live and we learn. Now we can start constructing the actual shirt part. This is what the front pieces look like. As you can see, there's a big hole in the middle where the faux fur is gonna go, and you just gotta make like an arch shape if you're cutting this out of pattern taken from a normal ass garment. I did already serge that center edge of the faux fur just to get that done and out of the way and try to keep some of the fur from flying off. It is floating everywhere. It's like when the dandelion puffs start doing their thing and it's like snowing sideways outside. That's how this feels working with faux fur. I am going to stitch these into the front pieces on each side, so that'll complete each front panel. Then I'll treat that like it's one normal ass piece and then attach the back piece at the shoulder seams, and then we'll get to the sleeves after that. Okay, so listen, things happened. I did attach these at the shoulders, and then while it was still laying open, so just attached at the shoulder seams, I sewed the top of the sleeve in, and then I just folded it right sides together and did the bottom of the sleeve down the side all in one. So I figured it was acceptable to like skip ahead through that. And then I just attached the hood to the neckline because I needed to finish all of the edges of the faux fur because it is everywhere inside and outside of me. I was on the fence about doing a band along the bottom of the sweatshirt or having it just like hang. So I just hemmed it. I don't hate it. I think because of the faux fur, it looks okay, just like free flowing, you know? He's a forest sprite. They're a forest sprite. Do we know Totoro's gender? Doesn't matter. I am gonna vote against this size check mark. This looks bonkers. I will make a note of that on the pattern sheet I'm gonna write. I almost said submit to my Patreon page. Since my hoodie is basically put together, other than tummy situations, we'll deal with the snaps in a minute. I have my arm cuffs. If you've never done these before, you just take your wrist measurement, get a rectangle that's gonna stretch the long way so you can get it over your hand, especially if you have a massive hand to wrist discrepancy like me. My hands are fucking huge. I get these teeny tiny little wrists. And I guess I'll do these now while I'm explaining it, so this also isn't flopping all over creation. You're gonna sew the short ends together. So you're gonna make a little loop, right? And then you're gonna fold it in half so that you can stitch it on to the end like this, and it'll cinch it in. Obviously, once it's actually sewn together. All right, good morning. It's the next day. I did not finish my Totoro onesie hoodie. I messed up putting the cuffs on 3 different times, so I figured that was a good time to stop trying to make fetch a thing and gave it a rest. I mean, this little guy had some good snuggles. We ate some tacos. So I slept for like 11 hours because the weather is horrible outside. I just had it in my head that I was gonna get it all done yesterday. But what I figured out is the problem is that I took everything down to a size small except the sleeves. I left those long. Frustratingly, didn't think to take the sides of the sleeve in, even if I was keeping the size large length. And therein lies my problem, because the cuff just like wasn't fitting nicely. Here's my checklist. I gotta take in the sleeves a bit, attach the cuffs and serge them. These are my newly resized dudes that are probably half, they're probably about half as long, and they can double as little mustachios. So one of these will get cut in half, and I'm going to top stitch those on with a zigzag like I did the basically applique for the eyes and the nose. And then it's Cam Snap City. And then whatever inadequacies I'm feeling today will be nullified by wearing our dear friend Totoro, because that is the energy I get from him. Oh my gosh, wait. Okay. Also, to justify part of why it took me so long to get this done yesterday, because like, it's a hoodie, and even with the little detail bits, I feel like it shouldn't have taken me so many hours to get not finished. But something worth mentioning, if you have not worked with faux fur before, or you know, you repressed the memory of the last time you fucked around with some of it, here are 2 pro tips. 1, don't. 2, if you must, also make sure, and it's gonna add so much time, is you gotta brush out all of the fibers from the seams. Sometimes you're gonna have to finger pull certain things, and it's just gonna take forever. It's just gonna take forever. It's not that it's difficult, it's just a raging pain in the ass. There's that. Also, to continue cheering myself up, other than seeing adorable little deers in the yard, is if y'all haven't listened to Neil Ciceriega's Mouth Dreams or any of his mouth mashup series he's been posting on YouTube, please treat yourselves. If you don't think you know who Neil is, if you've seen Potter Puppa Pals, that's the dude. Well, here we are. Totoro'd up. So my initial thought was, because it's so crummy and rainy and cold outside, I was gonna wait to film the outdoor shots until it was a little brighter and sunnier. But this is made for cozy days like today. I get some nice warm thick ass socks on. So I'm gonna have to get creative as far as where I'm gonna put the camera and my phone to actually take these photos so they don't get wet. Let us do some mincing about in some trees. This is better than I was actually expecting, to be honest. It looks a little kangaroo-y, but those are my favorite animals, so that's fine. Even though the edges of the eyes are fraying a bit, I'm really into how the face came out. It's just so cute. And my tummy checks came out okay. They are covered so much by the faux fur, but I didn't want them to not be there. The cuffs finally came out nice once I tapered the arm a little bit just on the underseam here. Also, when I stitched them, I had the cuff tucked inside the second time I tried to sew it all together. For the first time around, I had it wrapped around the outside like this, and the smaller item should be on the inside of the circle because that's going to get stretched out less, if that's making any sense. So that helped this be kind of a nice seamless, well, not seamless, there is a seam there, but a nice clean finish. So I'm really happy. It's funny how I've made multiple of these and I still learned so much, but such is the joy of sewing, just kind of a constant evolution of things, except for the fact that I will never learn to not use material that I hate working with because I'm stubborn and apparently like complaining about things that I do completely voluntarily. I hope this gave some inspiration, some cozy feels, perhaps some help on working with material like this, or how to just hack some patterns to make them look a little more fun. I know I already recommended checking out Neil Cicierega. I'm so sorry. His work has brought me a lot of joy for many, many, many years. I'm talking like live journal days. But the other creator recommendation I have for you is Ebony Warrior Studios, LLC. There is a team to the actual business of Ebony Warrior Studios, but Xavier in particular, I've been following him on Twitter and Instagram for a while and cannot believe the builds that he does, as well as just a really outspoken badass. Not afraid to call people on their shit, and I have learned a lot from him. Not that that's his job by any means. I just very much appreciate both the art that he creates and the thoughts that he shares on the internet. So I will link to him in the description, as well as Neil, as well as my Patreon, like I mentioned, and my Etsy and my Ko-fi page, and my Twitter and Instagram. I'll see you back here next Friday. And more importantly, thank you all so much for hanging out. Covering myself in little tiny fibers that are gonna get in my nose and eyes and mouth. Glamour!